On Morning News today on ENC. Now, authorities are warning parents to choose scholar transport carefully as children return to school. The city of Johannesburg has launched a back to school safety campaign to raise awareness for parents and schools to select reliable transportation. Well, to tell us about it and how it's been going so far, we're joined in the studio now by the Joburg MMC for Public Safety, Michael Soon. Michael, good morning, and thank you very much for your time. Yeah, you've been up and about, and in terms of checking out the state of scholar transport in some of the schools. What have you found so far?
Well, since last week when the school started, we've obviously, as you said earlier, gone back to the back to school safety campaign. And one of the very important focus for us was the scholar transport safety. So we were at the Unified Primary School in Joburg last week, and what we discovered that in this all rush of getting back to school, a lot of the children arrived at school with scholar transport. And, it's a long-coming story. It's nothing new, but we certainly want to clamp down on any unsafe and roadworthy minibus taxis. The one I personally inspected was just a nightmare. It had two wheel nuts missing in the front wheel. That particular morning was raining. Neither the wiper blades nor the headlights were working. If I went inside the vehicle, there was not enough seating, no seat belts. And this particular vehicle renewed the disc license expired in 2016 August. So you can understand the condition of this vehicle is certainly very concerning. So that's why we're urging not just the parents but also the schools to choose these operators very carefully.
Yeah, most of these operators are private. And the parents will maybe come together and choose a supplier, a provider of scholar transport from the township, from the area where they live. How much influence can you as government really actually have in making sure that they are safe?
Well, it's two aspects. Obviously, we want to bring about the awareness. We want to go to the schools as we'll be doing in all regions of the city. We'll try to get to every school as we possibly can during morning and afternoon hours. But also just to request the parents and the school governing body to look at these operators. And the second aspect will obviously be the enforcement. I mean, we'll be going there to schools where they drop off kids, where they pick up kids, to say to the operators, the drivers, they must be properly licensed, the driver must be fit, of course the vehicle must be safe to transport these children.
Now, you made an example of one vehicle that you yourself was present and you saw its sorry state of safety. And what happens to those vehicles? Do they get impounded?
No, certainly. That particular morning we impounded 4 vehicles. And our position will be that these vehicles must be rectified, repaired, back to its safe and roadworthy condition before we release them.
Yeah, now the JMPD, this is a back-to-school safety campaign, but we know that JMPD are mandated to make sure that our roads are safe throughout the year.
Absolutely.
Will this be an ongoing process from their side?
Yes, although we're calling it back-to-school safety campaign, but this is a 12-month-long campaign. It will continue until we have a manageable level of safety, particularly around schools, for our kids and for our parents. That's when our campaign will see some success, but until then we're not going to rest.
Yeah, the role of the school, I mean, scholar patrols are still very important, I'm sure, in your view,
Absolutely.
In terms of how the school children also assisted in understanding the dangers of unsafe vehicles and how to be a road user.
No, that is very true, Dan. So what we saw at that particular school, Unified Primary, there was a team of very young school learners, but the level of discipline and professionalism they've displayed in ensuring their fellow learners are being crossed the street very safely. So that's a very important aspect, and I certainly want to applaud Unified Primary School for having such a scholar patrol team, and I certainly want to encourage and challenge the other schools to ensure that their scholar patrols are also being properly trained. I mean, we will certainly bring whatever assistance necessary and training to those scholar patrol teams to ensure that the safety of pedestrians around schools too.
As part of enforcing safe scholar transport in Johannesburg, are you going to have, I'm going to call them surprise checks, impromptu checks in various schools throughout the year by the JMPD?
No,
because currently people know there's a focus. It's a back-to-school safety campaign. You say it's a 12-month program. Should we be looking forward to those surprise visits by JMPD to inspect some of these vehicles?
That is correct. It's the beginning of the school year, so hence the name of the the campaign Back to School. But as I've said, our kids go to school every school day. So this is not a campaign that we can only do at the beginning of the year or when the school opens, but it must be a long-term process to ensure that we get this adherence and also this awareness, driven into the parents, schools, and very importantly, the operators themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Michael Soon. He's the Joburg MMC for Public Safety, speaking about that very important issue of safe scholar transport.